Never hate. When do I share?
Oh, I think we're live.
We're live right now. What's going on, everyone? I'm Chris Baker.
And I'm Ty Backer.
Welcome to episode 191 of Behind the Tool Belt with TC Backer Construction.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Behind the Tool Belt is sponsored by Lead Scout. Find out more at leadscoutapp.com.
I just think our salespeople are being a little bit of, well, lead babies.
Yeah, we don't say lead babies. It's okay for people to specialize in selling instead of canvassing and lead gen for themselves. We call them roofing sales professionals.
Surprisingly, sales are way up as we built heavier duty lead gen systems and let our salespeople be roofing sales professionals.
Better leads. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Hey, TC Backer family. My mic's not on, I don't think.
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
I might have turned myself down. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I did.
Hopefully everyone's enjoying their week. We got a very special guest, our friend Steven Spence from Project Map It.
What's up?
How are you? Yes, actually I can. Yeah, whatever you did, that worked. That worked. What's up, Steve?
Not much, man. How are you?
Steven.
Just got back from Texas.
Just got back from Texas. What were you doing in Texas?
I was at the Top Rep Rush event the Contractor Coach Pro puts on. Your boy Tim Brown was there from Hook Agency.
Was he there?
Patrick Carr was
Shout out
there.
Tim Brown.
They were doing some sort of battle. It was interesting.
Like
It was
a rap
cool.
battle.
No,
Like
it was
trying to
so
outsell each other.
yeah,
Oh,
so-
out. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, Top Rep Rush. I won't get into it because I don't know. Maybe you'll have Tim on and he can talk about it. But
Yeah. Tim
Top
or
Rep
Chuck.
Rush brings all the sales reps in with some of the leaders from each of those contracting organizations, and it's pretty cool. It really is cool. They have what's called a dog fight where the sales reps, they get in groups and meet new sales reps from different contracting companies, but then it's like a simulation. They talk about sales, so they'll pretend that they're on a sales call and stuff like that, and they get points, and at the end there's a winner out of whatever it was probably like 80 sales reps, and there's a first place sales rep. They go head to head, and I think I missed it. I was sort of seeing it on social media. Ty, you might know more, or Chris with Tim, but I think they were in that to see which one of them, Patrick Carr or Tim, would beat each other. Who did better in the sales part? It was pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know who did better.
I do,
but
but I won't divulge.
yeah, you don't want to buy.
You're not going to give us the tea?
I mean, I can, but
Dude, you
I
should know
didn't
by now. This is the place where the tea is spilled.
That's right.
Patrick Carr, actually. So the number one person out of all the reps got 126 points, and Patrick Carr wasn't in that because he wasn't a true rep, but he ended up getting 140 points.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, so he actually got first place, and from what Jim Johnson and Chuck Toki said on stage when they were giving out the awards and all that kind of stuff, they did say that Tim got killed by Patrick Carr.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So there's
Oh.
the tea. I've spilt thy tea.
Spilt the tea.
Hell yeah.
No, that's great. I think Jim Johnson and Chuck Toki do a phenomenal job. Unfortunately, with the traveling and stuff that's been happening here lately, I didn't get to go personally.
I wouldn't say
but,
that's unfortunate. I'd say that's a good thing. You and your traveling. You're
Yeah.
killing it too.
It is. It's good. It has been good. Very productive. I was just talking to Baker out in the parking lot. There's been a lot of headway being made over, especially the last couple of days. Greenville locations crushing it down there. Vic, can you turn my headphones up a little bit? Like, I got everything over here cranked up. Yep, better. A little bit better. Having trouble here in Spence.
Yeah, mine's better too.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So yeah, a lot of good stuff happening. A lot of announcements that are still kind of in the infant stage that isn't necessarily public. It is public, but I don't want to spill the tea tonight.
But you will eventually spill it on this show, right? Because
Yeah,
this is
totally.
where the tea gets spilled.
Yeah, totally.
I'm excited for you. I'm
Had a
very
great
excited for
meeting
you, man.
with roofing.com. They are a proud sponsor of the Behind the Tool Belt. RoofCon is also a new proud sponsor of Behind the Tool Belt.
Hell yeah.
So that's pretty dope.
Yeah. We're like
along with-
74 days away, right?
Yeah,
74 days, I
not
think
many.
it is.
It's going to be here before we know it. So we gotta plan for that trip. And then we have 21 Turkey that we got to plan for. I was talking to John about that a little bit because
Mhm.
that's going to be here way before we know it.
Right.
We won't have much time after we get back from that. And then I'm just going to spill the tea on something here real quick about a nonprofit organization that we're creating. It's called Best Step Forward. Each pair of socks that you purchase from Best Step Forward, there will be a pair of socks donated to a local homeless shelter. We'll figure that part out. That's a little gray, but anywhere we do travel, one of the commitments that the Best Step Forward will commit to donating 100 pair of socks to a homeless shelter. So if we go on tour this winter, we plan on donating a shitload of socks. At this point in time, we have some socks that will be private labeled with our logo on it for Best Step Forward. And then also to try to get it out there and gain some traction, we will be hosting a 2-day event outside of Raleigh, North Carolina called Best Step Forward, presented by Behind the Tool Belt. We plan on having two big keynote speakers that aren't from our industry, but highly recommended A-listers from the motivational self-improvement field, along with probably some people from our industry. We'll have VIP passes. The venue only holds about 450 people, but we'll be able to zoom in tens of thousands of people that you can actually purchase a Zoom ticket. Those prices will be released at some point in time. But this should be a pretty dope. We're actually trying to do it probably February, March, before the roofing season kicks off, where it'll die down. It's not necessarily going to be roofing influenced. It's going to be roofing influenced because of the Behind the Tool Belt, but it's not going to be like a sales pitch where somebody
hey, go buy these shingles or this new roof hopper or whatever.
Exactly. Right. So we're in search of 5 platinum sponsors. Preferably, I mean, it can be anybody that might have the cheddar, because we're going to just try to narrow it down to 5 platinum sponsors that will be, a substantial amount of money. And that will help fund our speakers more importantly, and then the cost of the venue, our VIP dinner, and also cover lunch and snacks and water and stuff like that. So there will be more. Just thought we would throw that out there. This has all came to fruition in the past probably 7 days, more so than anything. But Vic and I have had a lot of time on our hands.
Isn't that how you guys work?
Yeah. In the office. So I thought we would just, I don't know if we didn't even think about when we were
Yeah.
gonna
Of course.
spill the beans, spill the tea. But it's going to be fun. That'll be fun. There will be all kinds of recording. We're going to try to do it like either on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That way, at least Wednesday night behind the tool belt can go live from there.
Yeah.
And then the gentleman. So the facility that we're holding it at, there's only 3 like this in the country. One is in Vegas. One is Tony Robbins. Both of which only hold 100 to 50 people, but it's a venue where it's made to zoom people in.
Gotcha.
This gentleman's Steve Scoggins, which is an exterior contractor out of North Carolina, services North and South Carolina, had created a venue for himself to host parties.
Nice.
Well, Ed Milet several months ago hosted his book launching there.
Oh, nice.
So it's a pretty dope facility. We didn't get to visit it yet, but he sent us videos and literature and pricing and stuff, and it's doable. That's why I feel 100% confident spilling the beans on at the tea.
Yeah.
I'm drinking the tea right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Beans, tea, whatever.
Yeah, same thing. Anyhow, so throw that out there because our best ideas come from this podcast, our best and most creative thoughts
for
and stuff from input of people watching and all that good stuff. Ken said actually there's 79 days till RoofCon. He's counting down the days.
Oh yeah, Ken.
But let's talk about Steve and Spence a little bit here. Like Steve, just introduce yourself, man, and provide a brief background about your expertise.
Well, first of all, what's up, Ken, Younce, Victor, everybody? Steve Spence, managing director of Project Map It. Been on here a few times. I want to point out something you just said, Ty, which was a lot of your ideas come from your show, right? So last time I was at your studio doing a show, we were talking about Roofer and Recovery Day, National Roofers and Recovery Day. And I went home that night. I couldn't sleep. Like I drove home, probably because I had a couple Celsiuses in me. And sorry, it was not the Red Bull, but couldn't sleep all night long. Started thinking about, man, I've been trying to get behind something that's important to me over the last 2-3 years. I deal with a lot of realtors, deal with a lot of contractors. I see all these companies doing a lot of good things for good causes. And it just I have some family members that are going through some recovery right now who I love very much. And so I put on, I was like, man, I on your show, I said that I would give $1,000 to Roofers in Recovery. We ended up raising about $2,000 for Roofers in Recovery that they got and built these shirts. Created these shirts. It's called Swing for Recovery, a golf tournament that I held here locally where I live in Maryland. And you mentioned RoofCon, love RoofCon. One of my favorite shows. Shout out to everybody there, Hunter, Diego, Jen, everybody. And got to visit, drove down to South Carolina with you, got to visit with Hunter and his family and you and your family. So just you guys are a big inspiration, influence in my life. I was a special ed teacher, for those that don't know, for 20 years. Yo, what's up, Ken? And just you guys have made me a better person, and I've only known you guys for about a year now. So with that said, with RoofCon, we are working with Roofers in Recovery and RoofCon. I have a guy locally here that literally runs golf tournaments. That's his job, guys. He's like a marketing guy that does golf tournaments. So shout out to Dan Moyer. He and I have met with both RoofCon and Roofers in Recovery. We're going to have a huge golf tournament the day before RoofCon. Hopefully 280 people. We have two golf courses. They're the same golf course, but 36 holes. We're going to be inviting Diego and his team at RoofCon are going to be marketing in big time and getting all the roofers hopefully to come join us there. We're going to have a speaker afterwards. We're going to have a nice dinner put on by a platinum sponsor after the golf outing. So it's going to be a pretty big deal the day before. Hopefully 280 people. We're hoping to raise $40,000+ is our goal. So
that's awesome, man. And you guys are doing it down in Florida?
Yeah, the day before RoofCon, right there. I think it's awesome. Like a 25-minute drive from Orange County Convention Center.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, I mean, other than the show, what would you say? what has inspired you to pursue, this particular path? Other than this show, like, did something dramatic happen in your life? Because to be a special education teacher, that takes a special niche, right? That's just not somebody that doesn't have patience. That isn't someone that isn't a good teacher or the ability to teach or be a coach or mentor these children. So, like, let's go back here a little bit. So lead us through the path, your journey, your milestones of being a teacher.
Yep.
And that led you to basically these golf tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been one to give back to others. I could go into my years of therapy and talk about why I feel a need to make others feel good and stuff like that. But I've always been a people person. Always. My mother was a people person. Grew up until I was 9. I was in a single family home with my mom. My dad was still an important part of my life at that point. Long story short, right out of college, I went to a small liberal arts school, played lacrosse. So I've always been a big lacrosse guy in my community here in Maryland, and played in college, small D3 school. Graduated May 9th, 2000. May 9th, 1996 in college. And on May 12th, 3 days after I graduated, 4 years of college, I was living in the woods of North Carolina, Elizabethtown, just 45 minutes west of, why am I not thinking of the big beach town there? But anyway, Wilmington, North Carolina. Lived in the woods 5 days a week, 24 hours a day, lived in tents that we built, that we had kids build. Kids were, I think, the ages of 6 to 14 or something like that. So at-risk youth. So did that for 2.5 years, really learned a lot about myself. That's where I learned my patience, I think. And to be honest with you, to get back into school or to get into teaching, the reason I got into teaching was I love lacrosse and I wanted to coach lacrosse. And one way to coach lacrosse was to go coach at a high school. And in order to coach at a high school, it's better to be a teacher. So I went back and got my special education degree. I was a psych major, which you can't really do much with unless you get your master's and doctorate. So I went back while I was teaching for the first 3 years of my teaching stint. I went back and got some classes to become a special education teacher, and taught for 20 years. And then to get into, kind of where I am today, long story short, I was told, hey, Steve, leave teaching. You'll be making 6 figures easily. So I did. I took a leap of faith and did that. Got in a car accident, which almost, messed me up pretty good. My car accident did. My kids were pretty young. And so at that point, that car accident was due to poor decisions that I made. Having a few, too many. And I just remember the look on my children's faces when I was FaceTiming with them when I was in the hospital. And so, I made some mistakes in my life, big time. So when I have family members and stuff like that going through some issues right now, it just made sense when I was talking to you on the show when I was there however many months ago. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. I really am happy to be a part of giving back to such a good cause. I mean, the roofing industry is like the number one addiction industry in the contracting world. So for me to even make a little bit of a difference to hopefully help out someone or some people that are addicted to whether it's drugs or alcohol means a lot to me. And that's kind of where I'm going to be headed probably the rest of my life, just to help out with that cause.
It's a great cause.
That's awesome, dude. What an awesome story.
For sure.
Yeah. I've been going to these shows for 3 or 4 years now, pandemic, no, but you see at these shows, people are either like just complete idiots drinking all night long. You wake up from your hotel room and you come down to go to the conference and there's still people drinking in the hotel lobby, just acting like complete butt darts. And then there are people that have struggled and they're completely sober and have just as much fun, sober. And I just, in the last 2 years going to these shows, I've been definitely more attracted to the company I keep with the people that are sober, having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and that's a great topic. We can definitely go down a rabbit hole.
We could
on the company that we keep, and Steve, it's funny because we were texting back and forth, I think last night. And, when I told you that I missed you, I was sincere about that because, and then I also said that, I need you in my life. And that's no exaggeration because it's because of people like you. And my next question was going to be, like who inspires you or what has inspired you or what or who has influenced you to either make these decisions or helped you choose the path or the journey that you're on right now. And which you can answer that then. But my point is that, you have been put in my life, the journey that I'm on today. And I think where we super connected, not just here, but when we were in Denton, in that ice storm, and we were all kind of like stuck in the hotel and stuff like that, but we're all from the north. So it was like, dude, they're like totally
They're
tripping.
freaking out.
Yeah, they're totally tripping over nothing here. But it was fun to act like we were snowed in or something.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun.
They not have salt in Texas.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, right.
nothing. No shovels, nothing. Leaf blowers or whatever the hell they were trying to do, and it was solid sheet of ice.
He said
Right?
leaf blower.
Swear to God, that's what the bellhop or whoever he was out there trying to clean the snow. But it was cool to get to know you and to know that there's other people out there too that's on the similar journey and path that we are. And then to come to find out like you're in our backyard
2 hours away.
and to watch you, I know some of your struggles, whether it be professionally or personally, right? More so on the professional side. I know a little bit of your story, and not even necessarily the struggle, but the grind, right? The grit that you have and the tenacity, right? I've watched you hustle at, I don't know how many venues that we were at together, whether it be IRE, RoofCon, SRC. So we got to travel a lot together. The more that I think about it, Christ, we hung pretty tight there for a while, but how we've been able to surround ourselves around like-minded people that help level us up and call us out on our stuff. And that's the thing about you, Steve, like you have no problem stepping on my toes because you would rather step on my toes and not my grave. And that's a true friend, right? Like that's someone that's going to call you out. And it's not always, it doesn't always feel good. And typically when it doesn't feel good, it's because it's true. And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, to take candor or sometimes it feels like slander, right? That I just got violated, verbally by somebody. But we've had some deep conversations and you've kind of, quite frankly, poked holes in some of the theories or questioned some of my thoughts or thinking process on certain things, especially if I was calling you out. You had no problem giving a little bit of pushback, but because of that pushback, it had created so many great conversations and eye-opening conversations for me to look at things slightly different than the way that I look at things right now. Coming from another, I'm going to call you a co-leader because I feel like we're all in this room right now standing our co-leaders, right? And to hear a different perspective from somebody that I'm not around every single day,
right,
I think has been probably one of the biggest influences and impact that you've had on me.
Well, I'm going to give you a little credit too, because obviously you asked who inspires you in this area, in the industry space, and on my personal life side of the world. You really have inspired me for sure. And I mean, I respect the absolutely hell out of you. So there are times when you just said, sometimes I poke holes or whatever. It's always out of respect, 100%. And honestly, when we first started to get to know each other, I could have poked some holes then, and just like you were poking holes at me, but I didn't, because I didn't know how it might go. And then just take our last trip to South Carolina, me, you, and Vic, 8 hours in the car. Could have been 16, but you screwed up on time. Hey, Steve, we're going to leave on Monday. We're going to leave on Tuesday. Okay, I put it in my calendar, Tuesday to Friday, right? Tuesday to, and then just so the whole world and behind the tool belt knows, Ty texts me at like 6 o'clock on Monday. And of course I'm up at 4 o'clock every day. So I get a text from Ty like, hey, we'll be there in about 30 minutes. I'm like, Ty, it's supposed to be tomorrow.
It's Monday.
You told me tomorrow, Tuesday. Yeah. I digress. But the 8 hours in the car ride coming back, and obviously the time that we spent in South Carolina at dinners and hanging out the whole time, I felt like I could talk to you 100% on the level because you make people feel like they're on your level. Right. So for me to be able to be honest and truthful when you were honest and truthful to me, it's like now it's just like we're brothers, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we do. We text a lot. Everybody that's watching, we text a lot. We say, I love you.
Mhm.
It's just how it is. We are brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good topic too. The vulnerability. It's called
Oh, yeah.
vulnerability, right?
Absolutely.
We've been very vulnerable and seeing that's one thing about leadership. And I love this topic. We can talk about leadership every freaking
We always
episode.
do. Yeah.
Is the vulnerability, right? And the thing about vulnerability is if you're going to be a coach or if you're going to be a leader, right, and you're leading a tribe of people, I think where a lot of us and believe me, I'm still trying to figure this out, bro. Like I am far from being a master guru, right? I feel miserably on a daily basis, but I do digress, and I'm able to take a step back and oversee kind of like things I've said, how poorly I may have handled something, but the one thing that I have learned is to come down off the thing instead of trying to continuously pull people up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To where I'm at. You need to figure out where people are and get there where they're at. And that sometimes is difficult because it takes a lot of patience, kind of talking about you being a special education teacher. So I'm sure you know a lot about patience, love, patience, tolerance, right? And getting down there and wanting to help. So I had a good conversation last Thursday on the phone with somebody, and the best way to do that is to find something. And this is how I interpreted what I was told, but I could apply this to many different things, right? He said, find something that's like a hobby or something that you really enjoy doing. I was like, okay, what is that? And it took me a minute to think about what is my hobbies. Well, I enjoy fishing. Love fishing, love teaching people how to fish, love tying the tackle up, terminal tackle. Love it. Love
Mhm.
all of that, everything about it. Right. And one of my biggest things is that, I want to be able to teach you how to fish. So then you'll be able to eat for a lifetime. Like I don't want to just give you a fish and eat for the day. I want you to learn how to fish. Right. So that's one of my biggest things. Right. So I need to pretend that I'm teaching someone how to fish. Right. Like that passion that I have for fishing is very contagious. Right. You can show people, right, but what people pick things up by that energy. It can be positive energy, it could be negative energy, but people pick that up. So if I can radiate my passion for whatever it is that we're doing or whatever it is that might be that coaching moment, pretend that I'm teaching them how to fish or tie a hook, how to schnail their hook. A lot of people might not even know what schnailing their hook means, or whatever, how to tie a dropper loop, top bottom rig, what's a teaser hook, all of these different things. So I need to pretend, and if I can keep that mindset, I will continuously enjoy mentoring, coaching. But the biggest thing about that is to be able to share the vision and learn how to articulate that vision. And that's something that I've struggled with too over the past too, is like it's hard for me to kind of articulate it. At least I feel that way, because sometimes I feel like I continuously fucking repeat myself. Pardon my French, but a lot of times, um, I'm maybe not articulating it in a way, and that's something that I have to reflect upon. Or did it come off wrong? And then the other thing is too, is that I have to accept that people are going to make mistakes, but there has to be room for those mistakes, and there has to be comfort in being able to make mistakes, because without the mistakes, and we talk about this all the time too, right? There's no way no one's going to learn necessarily. Yes, you can coach, yes, you can mentor, yes, you can do all these things, but then left to their own devices, they're going to make mistakes, and hopefully it's not a very costly mistake. And that's something I deal with on a regular basis too, on how to not mother F people right away. Try to find a solution like, yep, I got 20 minutes that I get to vent, but then I gotta reel myself in, and now I gotta be 100%. I got to be 100% leader now. And this is a coaching moment for everybody. I might not be happy about it. But I have to suit up and show up and start leading at that time. So,
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this, you're a pain in the ass and such a good leader that you do things. You do I was going to say you do things without knowing that you're doing it, but that's total bullshit. You are strategic in everything that you do, Ty Backer. So, example for everybody to know this, we're in South Carolina, about to get on behind the tool belt. Vic's probably going to laugh at this because he knows exactly what I'm about to say, or knows that Ty did this to me. So like an hour before the show, Ty goes, Steve, by the way, I'm not, or maybe it was like 3 hours. Steve, I'm not going to be hosting. You're hosting the show. You gotta be the one that kind of runs the show. I'm like, no, I didn't even know I was going to be on behind the tool belt. I thought you were going to be on with Hunter and Ken and those guys. And he's like, no, you gotta run it. I'm going to be off stage. And I was like, and just like normal, and for everybody that knows it, put it in the comments. You know what Ty always says. He always says, like, I'm all about making you feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right, Ty?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was uncomfortable, but it's kind of like, for me, I'll create an analogy. You're kind of nervous before the lacrosse game starts or any like a sports game starts, and all of a sudden you get on that field and boom, it's go time, right? Like it's a grind. Like Ty said, it is a grind, right, Chris? We work hard all the time. We're working 10, 12, 14 hours. We work on the weekends. We got to balance our family. I've got 2 kids. There's all that. And so during the spring, it's like a 4-month stretch where I'm coaching 6 days a week. And then I'm also working 12 hours a day. And on the weekends, it's a pain in the ass. And I don't want to, it's like, I bitch about going to lacrosse practice, but the minute I step on that field, it's like, boom, I'm in my zone. And that's what happened to me, like behind the tool belt started. Ty, I think you may have started on, but then you left and Hunter switched out with you. And I just rolled with it. And it's not like I ran the show, but I helped facilitate the conversations and everything. And afterwards, Ty's like, I'm proud of you, man. And it was that leadership that you do for me, that you did for me that night, that kind of gave me a little more confidence being in front of a microphone, in front of people and things like that. So, I appreciate you and your strategic ways of being a leader. And then the last thing I'll just say is I agree with you. I just asked, I have a very small team, Ashley and Perla. I asked them the other day, about 2 weeks ago, I said, hey, when we grow, because we're hitting a growth spurt, when we grow and we have to hire more staff, I want to have a culture in our company that allows for feedback. You got to be able to provide feedback and take feedback. So I asked the ladies in our company, I said, please provide me 1 or 2 things that you think I need to work on. I want to role model. I want you to understand, like, I'm going to accept that feedback. Be as hard as you want on me. And both of them said the same exact thing, that I might, like, sometimes I micromanage, right? And I do let them fail. I absolutely do. But I also am in a lot of what they're doing. So I've taken a step back a little bit, and I think it helps. And so anyway, just leader. Yeah, we could talk about leadership till
that's fine.
Yeah, I want to touch on something that you said, Ty, and something that I think is super important when dealing with people. You said about getting down on their level, you know what I mean? And being able to, sometimes you have to repeat yourself, and like, maybe it doesn't come off right, but like a lot of what the hard thing about teaching people, and I'm not just going to say leadership, I'm just going to say teaching people in general, is figuring out how they learn, what their learning style is, because, me and you can talk about something and I feel like we have similar learning techniques. And, if I'm explaining something to somebody in a way that I would understand it and how I would pick it up and I would comprehend it, it just makes sense to me in my head that, like, oh, well, this is how I need to feed it to them. But like, not everyone learns the same. You know what I mean? Sometimes people really do need to make mistakes to learn. Sometimes people need to be hands-on. Sometimes people need to sit in front of a book. Sometimes people need you to show them 3 times, and then they need to do it and mess it up, and then you need to show them again. Like, being able to have that patience and understand that, as long as they're trying, and you're doing everything that you can to articulate it right, you know what I mean? But to have that patience and understand that, maybe it isn't always them, maybe it's not always you, maybe it's a combination of both of the things. But being able to like figure that aspect out about people and like what makes them tick and how they comprehend, because communication is great, man. Communication is great. It's super important, but comprehension is even more important. You know, having you can communicate with someone all day, but if they don't comprehend or they don't understand what you're communicating, you're communicating with nothing.
Chris,
You know what I mean?
you're going teacher 101 right there, right? Like as a leader, teacher, administrator, or whatever, a lot of times they'll go into a classroom and try to, like, let's say you were an English teacher, Chris. You go into a classroom and I'm your administrator. I try to make you teach the same way I taught. Well, that's bullshit. Like, right? Like you teach your own, you need to have your own voice in your own way. There are certain ways that people learn, you know, your brain processes images 60,000 times quicker than just someone talking to them. You retain more information when it's visual as opposed to just verbal and things like that. But you're 100% right. You can take that emotional intelligence leadership into anything, whether it's you being a leader for Project Map at our software company. When we're training a new contracting company, we're always doing it mainly online. And we offer two ways. We say, hey, here's some slide decks that are training modules. If you're a person that learns best on your own by watching and doing, then go for it. Or if you want to hop on a training session with us, we'll take you through and we'll show you how to do it. So even as a company, we go that route where it's like, and I would recommend that to every software company out there, like have two different ways of onboarding your customers. Because some people are like, I don't need you, Steve. I just want to look at the videos you made and learn that way.
Right.
So, but great point.
Yeah, totally great point. And that's definitely something, you know, we kind of touched on early on, you know, having that patience and tolerance. You know, love, patience and tolerance.
It's hard sometimes, man.
Yeah,
it is.
Totally.
It's hard.
It is. To try to stay positive, upbeat and stuff like that, especially with everything that goes on in anybody's personal life or professional life. But being able to, you know, empower the team. Right. Empower the team with ownership in the work that they're providing and doing, and you know, fostering in an environment that encourages each other, right? Because that's probably the biggest thing too. And I think that's something that as the bigger that we get, fostering that communication, right? And that's probably the hardest channel for me to be able to tap into with the team, because you know, for the longest time we talk about bottlenecks and stuff like that too, and it's like certain positions and certain departments and certain things can start to hinder the growth of the company, and communication is probably like one of the biggest things, and it can be simply 2 doors away, right? You don't necessarily have to be in the same exact room or 5 states away, right? For there to be a communication breakdown. What it comes down to is, I think, and a lot of people are afraid, especially when they're being taught. Because Chris, this is something I thought about when you were sharing. I think a lot of people are afraid to ask questions because of the fear of that they're going to sound stupid, or that you're going to get sick and tired of answering the same question,
right?
And things like that. But I think as either the student or the teacher, if there's an open line of communication, right, and if there's no fear on either side, because you know the person that's doing the teaching, if they're getting short with the student, it's usually a fear-based thing that I got other things I need to do. I'm not going to be able to get my task done, right? Or whatever is creating that anxiety, that fear in them. And then the student who's sitting there, right, has that fear and anxiety, like, oh my God, I'm not picking this up quick enough. They're going to think I'm dumb. I'm going to lose my job, or whatever, wherever that fear comes from. And I think if you have an atmosphere, and I think we've done a pretty good job of creating an atmosphere where we encourage each other, we encourage growth, right?
Absolutely.
And where there is patience, because fortunately for most of the people fortunately for everyone who comes to work here, when it comes to teaching, right? And I'm not talking about grown adults who've been in the industry for a minute that just can't follow directions. That's not teaching. That's not coaching. That's just, I'm not even going to go there. But what I'm talking about as far as a new hire goes,
Right.
I've had a learning disability for most of my life. So my patience as far as trying to articulate things to somebody that's either new to the industry or new to a certain position or job, my patience level, and I think we've reciprocated that thoroughly enough, to, because Chris, I've watched you coach people, and you're a perfect example of having patience and tolerance, and repeating yourself, because I don't know how many times I've had you repeat things to me, whether you know it or not. There's a reason why. It's because sometimes when I look at shit, it's backwards, like literally. And then I blink my eyes a few times and it like straightens back out, like literally while I'm reading. So I suffer from a couple of things going on here. And I don't share that a lot with people.
Vulnerability.
But I've had to work extra harder than most people have had to work, to get to places that I want to do, whether it was, doing the OSHA, not the OSHA, but the latest thing that Zach and I did. That was not the easiest thing in the world for me to do.
Yeah.
Right. We became, what the fuck did we do? Xactimate, level 1 and 2.
Thing. Yeah.
Right. Level 1 and 2. We did it, made it. Right. I haven't sat in a classroom like that for a straight 8 hours. Right. There was a whole lot of blinking. I was on my PC, which I've gotten used to my MacBook, because Xactimate doesn't quite work right with a MacBook. And like the screen is as big as this on it. I couldn't see every time I tried to blow up the font, then half of it wasn't on the screen. I'd had to shrink it up. It was freaking nightmare. Not really. But we ground through it, and with the help of Zach, because he would see, because the lady was
He's
super
another
fast.
good teacher too, man.
Yeah,
he's another good teacher.
The lady was super fast, but being that vulnerable, I knew I hated a classroom setting. I don't even want to talk about school or high school or the shit that I've put everybody through during that time, because of the lack of patience and tolerance. That when we went to school, they didn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
They thought you were hyperactive. They thought whatever they thought at that time. Right. Yeah. They're not as patient as they are now. But anyhow, I think we've tried to, it's, if it takes a minute, and I know I've had Ken's on here, he's listening. I've described similar situations, not quite as thorough as that, but like just because it's taken them a minute to learn something doesn't mean they're not a fit for the culture. Right.
Absolutely.
Like there might be, 7 out of the 3 things that they qualify to be a good fit. But those last 3 things, like they're taking a minute to pick this up, or whatever the case might be. I feel like most of us take that extra step and go over and beyond, to help teach or coach somebody. And that's the thing that we need to keep in mind, because we don't know anybody's background. We don't know what trauma that they had experienced, or that classroom setting experience that they may have had, or what their home life might be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At that time. So we don't know what anyone's gone through. The education level doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you're book smart, doesn't matter if you're self-taught, doesn't matter. It's the willingness to want to learn, I think, and to ask questions and be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
On both sides, being the coach, being the mentor, and being the student, and keeping an open mind, both parties.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And you want to go back to like high school. Okay. I remember numerous times I was a good student. I unfortunately got in trouble because I didn't do my homework. I wasn't ever interested in school, just for your typical teenage boy reasons.
You were hyperactive.
Yeah, but I got good grades. You know what I mean? I was a smart kid, but there was numerous times, man, where you get in a classroom and you get with a teacher that you can tell is just there for a paycheck, doesn't connect with the student, doesn't really care whether you learn or not. And if you're trying to teach somebody and you're not doing a good job being a teacher, you are doing them a disservice.
Mhm.
100%, because they're not going to learn. You know what I mean? And if you don't have that connection and that vibe, I feel like a perfect trait in a teacher, you should get satisfaction out of watching that person learn. When they finally get that aha moment, that light bulb goes off and they got it and they don't need your help doing it anymore, dude, that's a good satisfaction, man. Like, I personally get enjoyment out of that. I like watching people learn. I like watching people grow. I know, Ty, I know that you do too. And any good teacher, leader, whatever you want to call them, gets that sick satisfaction out of watching other people pick up something that they've never there, especially when they don't think that if they're a person that never thought that they'd be able to do something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a satisfaction. And Steve, I guarantee you, of all people on this show right now, you probably can feel that the most, being a special education teacher, man. How many times do you think that you dealt with kids that, maybe have been passed through systems where, people are in there for paychecks, man? Because that's not a job for everyone. And I feel like there are special people on this earth that are here to help those individuals
There are
with the patients.
there are a lot of great teachers out there. There are
Mhm.
also a lot of really not great teachers out there
Mhm.
that are there, whether it's just that they don't have the capacity to really make those connections with students where the students want to learn because they like you as a teacher,
Mhm.
or so it could be a capacity thing where they just don't have the capacity, or it could be just they've taught for so long that they're kind of burnt out and they don't want to be a lifelong learner, because teaching is interesting, right? Like, by the time I started teaching, by the time I ended my career, the way we taught kids was very different, very similar in the contracting world, right? Like, you guys, your sales teams are no longer just teaching, like going into a home, talking to a person that is used to just being talked at, right? Like when we were in school, right? Well, Ty and I are a little older than you. I'm the oldest on the show. I'm just going to say, although Vic behind the computer right there, you are the oldest, I think.
Ooh, called you out, Vic.
Vicky.
Called you out.
But point being, when we were in school, Vic, you'll probably nod your head. Ty, you will. Like, we were talked at. We were told like what we should
Mhm.
learn. This is what you need to know to
Mhm.
pass the test. This is what you. And now it's so much different, right? Like the kids that we're teaching today, the homeowners that you all are providing roof inspections to and free estimates to, they're millennials. They're people that grew up with iPads in their faces and phones in their ear, and they're able to Google you in 2 seconds.
Mhm.
So it's very similar in teaching. I think that's why I became a really good salesperson in Project Map It, because I was a good salesperson in the classroom.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I sold curriculum. I taught kids what they should learn and they liked it.
Yeah.
Not many people liked learning math. And by the end of the year of me and my co-teacher Janet Lamada teaching them, they would say, like, this was my favorite class. And it's
Yeah.
freaking math. Like, who wants to learn math?
Yeah. Well,
but I
you
think-
put a good spin on it, probably.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. And I think the biggest thing out of everything that you and Ty just said, and I'm gonna kind of tailor this to what I learned also from Chuck, Toki, and Jim just over the last couple days, is questions. You are going to be the most successful person in anything you do, being a leader, being a teacher, being a salesperson, if you ask questions. Because when you ask questions, it means that you're listening to the person you're talking to.
Mhm.
Right? Like they
Mhm.
said, the stat that my aha moment the last couple days in Texas was that I think I even posted on TikTok or something, but Chuck said that the top reps, the people that sold the most, that closed the highest in the contracting space, ask 5 times more questions to the
Wow.
homeowner than the lower performing reps.
Mhm.
I mean, and think about it. I mean, you ask questions, it means you care. You want them to talk to you. You're listening
Absolutely.
more.
Absolutely.
So you're making
One
those
thing that I
connections.
go to subliminally, man, and I caught myself doing this recently, and I feel like it works, man. If you're trying to explain something to somebody, Ty, you touched on this. Sometimes the person that you're trying to explain something to is afraid to ask a question, or might just like, he's already explained this to me 3 times. Like, I'm just going to pretend like I get it and I'll figure it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
How hard can it be? I'll figure it out this time. One thing that I do subliminally is when I am trying to make a point, or I say something that I want to make sure that they're picking up on, I always ask, does that make sense? Like, did that make sense?
Mhm.
And I feel like not only does that, that'll help you gauge on if they're comprehending, going back to the comprehension thing, if they're comprehending what you're saying, but that also kind of opens up the door for them to say, okay, like he actually cares if I understand. Prone to say a little bit, but I still don't understand this part of it. So just a little thing that I do personally, if I'm talking to somebody or if I'm trying to teach someone something. I had a training with Jen today, our Delmarva, the admin down in Delmarva, and screen sharing and all that kind of stuff. And it's like every time I went to make a point, it was just like, does that make sense? Does it make sense why I did this? Because me personally, how I learn, I don't need to just understand how this works. I need to understand the step before it, and I need to understand the step after it, so that I need to know the whole process. You know what I mean? Like, why am I doing it like this? You know, why, if I do it like this, is it going to make this next step easier for this person? You know what I mean? Why is this person doing it this way so that it comes to me like this? Like, that's how I personally learn. So, but not everyone cares about that part of it. You know what I mean? So that goes back to understanding the person that you're trying to teach and their level of comprehension, I guess.
Correct.
Amen.
I sometimes say, what do you think? I'm like, what do you think? They'll say,
yeah,
hey,
that's
I need
a good
to
one
know
too.
this customer asked me this question. Like, can you tell me what to write? I'm like, what do you think you should write? And I always back it up with like, there is no, like, I'm not putting you on the spot. I just want to know, like, you understand project map it well enough. I mean, how would you handle it? And if you're on target, then great. You just go with it. And if I need to provide a little more feedback, I'll provide you feedback. But what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good stuff.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff. So before we get off here, because I know that you got to spend some time with your family after being out of town for a couple days.
Yeah.
Let's get into just a little bit on like, you know, specific books or resources or individuals that you might follow or who have inspired you to try to level up your personal and professional. You know, like, let's talk about some books, because I know Ken asked you earlier if you've ever actually finished Relentless or not. So I know you've been reading some books, man. Why don't you tell us some books that you've currently finished reading and what you're getting from them?
Yeah. So Ken, I definitely, to answer your question, because I was going to bring it up. So thank you, Ty. Maybe we can end the show on this, but 100%, I did read Relentless. Got it in my back. I got it in my credenza right there. I also listened, and that is by Tim Grover.
That's right.
Groggins, whatever. It's by Tim Grover, Relentless.
Right.
It's pretty cool because I'm an athlete. Ken's an athlete. So we had a lot of good talks while I was down in South Carolina. So much love to you, Ken. And when I was down in South Carolina, somebody, Hunter, told me that I should be reading Buy Back Your Time. And that's by Dan Martell. And that was a good book for someone in my position as a software company and stuff like that. I really liked that. So I have read those two books. I'm currently reading with my mastermind group, Ninja Selling. I got it right here by Larry Kendall, which is good. It's not great, to be totally honest with you. I feel like I've taken a lot of that. And honestly, I mean, I have my books back there, but well, here, Make It Count. I read that book. That was a while ago. That was by Hunter. Simon Sinek. I've not started reading. So Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I've heard that's really good. And then I like this one too, Donald Miller, but Building a Story Brand.
That's a great book.
Have you read it?
Oh yeah. Twice.
Yeah. And then, and Ken Younce. Yes.
Yeah.
My man.
Listen,
I haven't started reading
it's
that
not,
yet.
It's not how many books you read.
It's what you get
how
from
many, it's how many times you actually read a book.
Fair enough.
Just so you know that.
Fair enough. So I've been reading them. I like getting the hardbacks, the paperback books, because I can mark up in them. And I have a little journal that I can write some notes down of things like aha moments that I use. So and
sometimes that's difficult to find a soft back book. It's like it's easier to find the hardback books. Did you notice that? No. Oh, okay.
I like the paperback, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. I like paperbacks, are my favorite. They fit my backpack better.
That's right.
That's cool. Yeah, so now give us some nuggets that you've retained from, let's say, Relentless. What's a piece that you've taken from that you can share with our audience that we can send this off with here?
Well, just the idea, like, I mean, Relentless, it's all about, so it's a trainer that trained Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all that.
Mhm,
And just hearing like I listened to the audiobook for Relentless, and
mhm.
just hearing the things that Kobe Bryant, man, I was just listening. So now you put me on the spot. There was something Kobe Bryant said when asked, God, what was it? What made you the Black Mamba at the height of your career when you were great? And he's like, I always strive for perfection. And there was another word, and he lived by that. So he knew he would never be perfect, but he 100% strived for that perfection.
Mhm.
And that's what made him so great.
Mhm.
Whereas a lot of people are great, but they don't strive for perfection. Michael Jordan was asked the same thing. And his thing was, I never asked anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Mhm.
So, Michael Jordan, I mean, he was the first, him and Kobe, they were just always the first in the gym, the last one to leave. They would shoot, Kobe Bryant
Yeah.
playing with his fever of 103 in the playoffs that one game. Just the things that they did to like supersede what their body could even do is just amazing.
Mhm.
So I just appreciate that. I'm not at that level. I'm going to be
Yeah.
totally honest with you. I'm just not at
Yeah.
that level.
Yeah.
I'd
They're
like to be
they're
at
a
that
they're
level.
a different breed and
They're a
at a
different
different
breed.
level. And reading that book, you have to be careful with that book because it's easy to especially being a Gen X, right?
Yeah.
When you listen to something like that, that's kind of how we were raised. And it's a fire and a fuel that you need to keep contained,
Yeah.
right? Because when you start expressing those types of motivational uh, techniques, I guess, for lack of better terms, it can come off harsh in a
Yeah.
society that we live in today. But for
Correct.
those of us, the 1% of us that can actually withstand the abuse to whether mentally, physically, spiritually,
Yep.
that can handle that type of endurance, right? Because it comes down
Mhm.
to stamina, endurance, going the extra mile no matter what, be the first one there, last one to leave, right? So if you can contain that fire and hold that within yourself, because when I first listened to that book, I listened to it the whole way from front to back. I had a nice drive. I was traveling and I couldn't stop listening to it.
Yeah.
Now I can tell you exactly what happened when that book was over. I picked up the phone and I put foot to ass,
Yeah.
right? And so if you can find that happy medium between Simon Sinek and Tim Grover, bro, you
Yeah.
got this fucking shit licked, bro. I'm telling you, that's at least that in my eyes, my world. And listen, John Maxwell, 88 books,
Yeah.
78 years old. That dude is a freaking genius, and very humble guy.
Yeah.
Um, and don't yes, let's sprinkle some John Maxwell in the mix and the impact, because there's nobody out there like John Maxwell that's impacted as many people and has created more leaders than John Maxwell's
Mhm.
just an amazing man, amazing person. But I always use Simon Sinek because he touches a lot on the workplace
Mhm.
today,
Yeah.
and the three different levels or the three types of generations that is in the workplace today. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because 10 years ago, it may have been baby boomers and Gen Xers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, probably even 5 years ago, right? That I don't think the Gen Zers were even 5 years ago were in the workforce yet. But now you're dealing with
Got
Gen
4.
Zers, four,
Got 4 now.
right?
Yeah.
We got four, right? That's in the workplace right now. And so to be able, and I think we talked about this last week
Yeah,
or
we
couple
did.
couple
We
weeks
did.
ago, to navigate that. So now throw
Mhm.
more insult to injury on how your leadership skills and figuring out how to have a coachable moment. But I'm going to use Tam as an example. Tam is 20 something and she works for us, and I've watched this girl go leaps and bounds. And Steve, you talked about strategic things, right? And Tam is a good one that I've enjoyed watching her grow. And she is one of the smartest people that I know. And I've put
Super
her
smart.
in some seriously uncomfortable situations. And dude, she has exceeded my expectations.
Mhm.
Like I was even willing to co-sign, like, okay, I get it. I understand why you didn't do something, but I had put her in a position maybe about a year or so ago, and she stood up like a trooper and went and like did it with no
Awesome.
no questions, no quorums. About a year ago or so, I had asked her to start leading our business meeting on Tuesdays, and just to, because she's kind of a, and this is just my opinion, she comes off being like an introvert, but she's really not once you get to know her.
Right.
She's very free spirited, your typical millennium slash Gen Zer, right? She's right in that very free spirit. It's not about the money, it's more of the satisfaction out of the project that I'm working on.
Absolutely.
Right. Like type of person. And once you can figure that out, like Chris, you talked about like knowing like maybe what inspires them, what motivates them.
Mhm.
You know, once you can figure that out about people, that is a gift, I think. That good leadership is definitely a gift to in order to be a good leader, if you're working towards, and it should be a continuous growth pattern there. If you're trying to be a good leader, that is one gift that you need to master, and it goes back to figuring out where they're at. The sooner you can figure out where somebody is, like if they're money driven, or if they're ego, or if they just want to be a part of something, that's fucking great. Like you need to figure people, right? And that's something, fortunately, by growing up on the streets, because I put myself there, I've been able to read people really quickly. You know what I mean? That's been one of the talents, that whether it was just due to situational, because I put myself in those situations, I've been able to read people right away, and not in a negative way, but just more of a sixth sense, where like I have these little sensors that go off and can read people fairly quickly. And that's just, thank God that I can do that. Not all the time, because I get caught up in my own shit, and it's like I can't read a situation right, or whatever the case is. But again, that's another learning experience for me to take a step back and want to be better.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So
For sure.
Anywho, is that it? Are we done?
I don't know.
Do
You
you-
done, Steve?
Steven?
I got
Steven?
my wife opened the door a couple times and gave me the look.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Good. Well, tell her that we love her. Give her a hug and a kiss
Oh
for
shit.
us.
Same
Real
with
quick
Janet.
before we hop off here, I want to give a shout out to the boys today. Zach just joined us live. We had a good group of guys out doing a really big project in New York City, man. Have been killing it. They just got off work. It's dark out. They've been busting ass all day. So I just want to shout out the team real quick for the hard work. Good stuff, boys. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Nice work,
For
Zach
sure.
and team.
Yeah, man. No doubt. Well, as always, thank you to for our loyal listeners. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will at some point in time, doesn't have to be right this second, but the link will be in the comments. So like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe to Behind the Tool Belt, like and subscribe to the TC Backer Facebook page. And as always, be safe, be careful, and stay humble.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you too, brother.